guys, and with the huge popularity of Twitch Plays Pokemon, which I personally find to be an amazing social experiment to observe, I thought I would attempt to explain what exactly a social experiment is and give a few examples of social experiments that relate to the video game world. First off, we need to define what a social experiment is. A social experiment is a category of scientific investigation in which a person or group of people are put into a particular test situation that mainly involves observing the interpersonal relationships between the test subjects. A famous example of a social experiment is the Stanford prison experiment. The Stanford prison experiment was based on a simple idea. Two groups of men are chosen to take part in an experiment where one half acts as prisoners and the other as guards. To make the experiment as real as possible, the prisoners were arrested randomly during their daily routines. The arrest itself included the prisoners being fingerprinted, blindfolded, being stripped naked, searched, and chained. Also, the experimenters tried to make the guards' experience as real as possible by giving them matching uniforms and billy clubs to make them look the part. The mock prison was set up and the experiment began. Very quickly, these normal people began turning into the roles. For example, on the second day, the prisoners began to rebel against their imprisonment, but the guard mercilessly shut down the disobedience. The guards stripped the prisoners, took their beds away, and locked their leader in solitary confinement. The experiment was shut down after only going 6 of the 14 days that it was originally planned to. This was because the results of the experiment had already been apparent. The prisoners had now truly become prisoners, referring to each other by their number instead of their name, and the guards had truly become guards, as men who described themselves as pacifists before the experiment were now abusing prisoners for their own enjoyment. To sum up, the Stanford prison experiment shows how human behavior can quickly and dramatically change depending on the situation the person is in. So now that we have a greater understanding of what a social experiment is, we can now move on to social experiments that involve video games, which are a lot less intense, but just as interesting as the Stanford prison experiment. Curiosity, What's in the Cube, was a socially experimental game released by the gaming studio 22 Cans. I say was because the game was finished by Brian Henderson on May 26th of 2013, but we'll get back to that shortly. The gameplay of Curiosity was quite boring due to the fact that until a later update that added a few new modes, the entire game consisted of tapping on smaller cubes to make them disappear to get to the middle of a giant cube. But how could a game so simple have over 3 million users? Well, as the name of the game implies, Curiosity. A treasure lied at the middle of the cube that the game's creator, Peter Molyneux, described as life-changingly amazing by any definition to the person who broke the last block. And so we go back to Brian Henderson. When Henderson broke the last layer on May 26th, he was asked to either keep the prize to himself or share it with the public, and thankfully he shared it. The prize was the ability to be the all-powerful digital god within 22 Cans' upcoming game Godus, and also receive a small portion of the profit. The game's alpha was released on Steam on September 13th of 2013, unfortunately without much positive feedback, and is currently in the beta stage where it still garners hate from gamers. In conclusion, Curiosity, What's in the Cube, shows how people's curiosity and drive to possibly be the winner of some grand prize that they know nothing about will cause them to perform mundane tasks just to reach it. In our next example, the video game is not a social experiment itself, but instead is a vehicle for social experimentation. League of Legends, a MOBA created by Riot Games, is one of the world's most popular games. League of Legends draws 4.2 million players daily, 11.5 million players monthly, and has had over 32.5 million people sign up for the game. This large audience of people does not come without its downsides though, one of which is toxicity. Toxic is a term used to describe a player who uses offensive language, insults his teammates, and/or displays a negative attitude, which often causes the negative attitude to spread throughout the team, leading to a very unenjoyable gaming experience for all. So to attempt to combat this problem in League of Legends, Jeffrey Lin, lead designer of social systems for League of Legends, worked with game designers, marketing, and other production staff, and a team of research specialists to investigate League's toxicity and attempt to find a way to combat it. Firstly, the team created behavior profiles for individual players by looking at their offenses throughout their games. Through doing this, they found that players who are constantly toxic are rare, and that most toxic players are just having an uncharacteristically bad day. These results led the team to believe that the reason that toxicity seems so prevalent is because one toxic player can cause others to become toxic themselves, thus spreading it indefinitely. Now that Lin and his team knew how toxicity spread, they attempted to combat it by confronting players about their toxic behavior. They attempted to accomplish this by introducing the Tribunal, a system where the community votes on if a reported player's behavior deserves a punishment, which would usually be a temporary ban. As of the time this article was published, March 2013, the Tribunal had led to over 280,000 reformed players, which are players who were punished for their actions but were currently in good standings with the community. Now that they had a method to help prevent repeat toxicity, Lin and his team looked to stop toxicity before it even happened with an idea called the Optimus experiment. The experiment involved displaying factoids from 5 different information categories in 3 different colors in 4 different game locations. The information categories consisted of positive player stats, negative player stats, self-reflection notes, fun facts, and general gameplay tips. The 3 colors that were used were red, blue, and white, and the 4 locations are the loading screen, in-game, both, and neither. The Optimus experiment produced some interesting results. First, results show that showing a red message about negative behavior during the loading screen caused a much larger decrease in toxic behavior than the exact same message being shown in white. Furthermore, showing a blue message about positivity during the loading screen caused a decrease in negative behavior, while the same message in white produced no effect. And lastly, and ironically, when the question, who will be the most sportsmanlike, was shown in red, toxic behavior actually increased. These social experiments within League of Legends show how most people aren't inherently toxic, how reprimandment causes change in human behavior, and how color can affect how a message is responded to. And lastly, the social experiment that inspired me to create this video, Twitch Plays Pokemon. Twitch Plays Pokemon is a anonymously created and constantly running live stream that has its viewers play Pokemon games by inputting controls into the stream's chat. It originally started as just an interesting concept, but has quickly turned into a microcosmic example of the evolution of a society. So this might seem like a big claim for just people playing a Pokemon game, but when you explain it, it makes a lot of sense. So it started out simple. Only a small amount of people who for the most part were on the same page. But quickly the population grew, and it became harder for everyone to know what the common goal was. The people then looked to some higher power to try to unite them, and so they created religions and gods. They helped unite the people, but it wasn't enough, and leaders began to emerge within communities, trying to acquire attention with their own plans for success. And these plans took the society very far, and even though there was a few errors on the way, the society was progressing well. But then progress came to a standstill, and these state leaders were not working well enough. A central government needed to be established, and a 2-party system was put in place. Progress started back up again, and the adventure continued while the 2 parties constantly battled for control. This long-winded analogy shows how the Twitch Plays Pokemon community has actually created its own pseudo-nation. Now speaking in more actuality, the Twitch Plays Pokemon community successfully finished Pokemon Red on March 1st after 16 days, 7 hours, 45 minutes, and 30 seconds of straight gameplay. Now that Pokemon Red is finished, the Twitch Plays Pokemon community has moved on to the 2nd generation of Pokemon, attempting to repeat their feat with Pokemon Crystal. The Twitch Plays Pokemon experiment, while dramatically simplified, shows how the development of human societies often follow the same pattern because of the nature of human behavior. And last, I'd like to add just how amazing I think this Twitch Plays Pokemon thing is, that 70,000 people at the same time are all working together, forming all these groups just to finish this one game. I'm not speaking off a script now. This is just what amazed me so much and made me want to make this video, because I was just thinking about social experiments and they really interest me and stuff like that. Twitch Plays Pokemon may not be the best thing to watch consistently, and you might want to check it in from time to time, but just the idea of it and that people are actually working together and getting this done, it blows my mind. It just reminds you of just what age we're in right now, of all this technology and the crazy things we can do and how many people we can bring together in an instant. And that wraps it up, guys. I hope you enjoyed my little video on social experiments and video games, little intermingled. I really enjoy both things, so I thought I might as well combine it together, and I had a lot of fun doing the research for all this video, reading the articles, writing everything down, writing the script. So I hope my effort gave enough for a like, a favorite, a comment, subscribe. I think I went through the typical YouTube list of everything. And if you didn't like it, air your grievances down below, or if you have a question or you'd want more information so you could look up stuff for yourself, especially about the Stanford prison experiment. I really find that interesting. If you find social, economic, and stuff like that, I would suggest, and I'm random book suggester here, The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, I believe, and Freakonomics and Super Freakonomics, who I cannot think of, Levitt and Dunbar. 2 very interesting books that I have read myself. I'm actually reading Freakonomics at the moment. I read Super Freakonomics and The Tipping Point for my school, but they're really interesting if you like this type of stuff, so go check out some random YouTubers' book suggestion, but I'll stop blathering on and keep the video short enough. I've been Saved Untitled. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll hopefully see you guys next time.